If you are not new to my channel, this is a story that you may have heard before, but it's a story that bears repeating. And the reason I'm going to tell the story again is because it has to do with a question that I'm often asked. And I have a lot of new subscribers here and a lot of people who are curious as to whether or not there's still a baby bat. And it is a question I will consistently get. And a lot of times people just don't, even if they're new to a channel, they're not about back watching old content. They're all about the new. They're like, no, we're not going to look back. We're just going to look ahead. And there's a lot of good stuff that I covered way back when, but I don't mind talking about it again because this is a story that I like. I like to tell this story. It makes me happy. This is a happy memory. So I got my trusty green tea here, and I'm going to explain something first and foremost because a lot of people are curious what constitutes being a baby bat and not. So a lot of people think that being a baby bat has to do with one's age, and that's not true because you can have two goths, one being 18 and one being 42, and that 42-year-old could actually be the baby bat in the equation. And the reason why is it has to do with how long one has really been involved in the subculture, as well as when they no longer feel as if they are the kid at the kids' table. So my story is involving when I no longer felt like the kid at the kids' table, and I felt like I was one of the flock. I felt like I was kind of like I can hold my own in the situation, and it happened in 1997. I'd only been a goth for a few years, but it was kind of reaching that point to me where I didn't feel like I needed the training wheels anymore. I still had a lot of time to go because 3 years is not a long time. I think whether or not you are a baby bat or a new goth really has to do with time invested, how long you've been involved, and when you feel as if you got this. You no longer feel like you need to ask questions. You no longer feel like all eyes are on you, or you feel like you're being judged because you don't know as much as everybody else, etc., etc. And those insecurities, they go. Those are kind of insecurities that we have really with everything. It's not just something associated with goth. It's something that's associated with really anybody getting involved in any kind of social situation. We've had it when we started high school. You know, we're the freshmen, and then we're integrating with people who are in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and we feel like the little kids. And eventually, those insecurities, they go once we get used to our environment and get used to the way things kind of work. So for me, when it happened for me, it was 1997. I was 17 years old, and I'm going to show you the exact outfit that I wore to that event because through the magic of Poshmark and Depop and all of these things, I managed to locate the outfit from the 90s that I wore to the event. I've been on this kick where I've just been kind of acquiring things that I used to have back in the day, things that made me happy and things that either got damaged or lost or stolen or whatever thing happens in between falls into the void. So 1997, it was the London After Midnight concert, and I had really gotten into them really hard. And it's one of those bands for me that I was a huge fan. Loved London After Midnight. And they were going to be playing at the Angel Orson Sands Foundation, which was it was a refurbished cathedral or church. And it was perfect environment for the entire event. I was stoked about going. I realized that I have a lot more privileges, or had a lot more privileges back then that a lot of people don't now. One of those being events where either all ages or 18 to enter. It's not really like that anymore. Another one being that I grew up outside of a major city. I lived in New York my whole life. So living on Long Island, Manhattan is just a short train ride away from me. Another one was that my parents were lenient enough to where I was allowed to go to these events, because even if you kind of are of a certain age, parents aren't as receptive to the idea of allowing their teenager to get on a train and just go into the city willy-nilly. I fortunately had very permissive parents and I was allowed to do quite a lot. So I understand that there's a lot of kind of nuances there that other people might not have. But I did happen to have a lot of fun and cool adventures that I will cherish for now until the end of time. Angel Orson Sands Foundation is where the event was to take place, and I remember I had to call Batcave to find out what the whole deal was. So this is where I had the crap embarrassed out of me. Luckily, it was over the phone, but I swear I felt like people knew exactly who I was. And back then, the internet, it's super scarce. We don't have privy to like the amount of information that we have now. I happened to love John Koviak. Many of you know who John Koviak is. Many of you do not. John Koviak was basically the poster boy model for Propaganda magazine. And he graced my walls. I had him plastered on my walls, and he was sort of, my ideal when it came to physically what I wanted in a human. And I thought that John Koviak, who had previously been in London After Midnight, was still in London After Midnight. And unbeknownst to me, he was no longer in London After Midnight, had not been for a long time. So I called Batcave and I was like, hello, Batcave, I would like to get tickets to the event and I just would like to get information, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember exactly what was said in this conversation. That was many years ago. But what I do remember is, for whatever reason, working in, I don't care where I stand so long as it's close to John. And the girl on the phone just paused and said, he hasn't been in the band for years. And anybody in the goth scene, you remember being that young person, maybe you are that young person now, when you get something wrong and you have it pointed out, but in that way, you feel like you begin to just shrink down into nothing. And that is what I felt like. I was like, wanted to disappear. It was silly, but I was not going to allow it to stop me from going to the show. And the show was going to take place on February 16th, I remember, because it was a few days after Valentine's Day. I went with my friend at the time who went to high school with me. His name was James. And it turns out that James was going to be wearing his butt cleavage pants. Let me explain to you what his butt cleavage pants were. Mind you, he's also 17. Well, girls can show their cleavage, why can't I? So he took a pair of PVC pants that he had, and he cut 2 holes for his butt cheeks to come out. And we're waiting to go to the show. I think we were waiting for my mom to drive us to the train station. And he comes into the kitchen, and he's having a full-on conversation with my dad while wearing these pants. My dad doesn't see his butt until after. So they're having a conversation. It's time to leave. He turns around, and immediately my father sees that his 17-year-old daughter is about to leave the house and walk around the city with a dude with his butt cheeks hanging out. It's just occurring to me that he had his ass out in February. So we get on the train, and the plan was we were going to meet a couple of people at the train station at Penn Station who were kind of acquaintances, people that I knew from the clubs and through mutual friends. We became close with. One of them I ended up dating for almost 10 years, but that is another story altogether. But we met at Penn Station, and we walked to the event together. So we made our way to the show, and afterward we had plans to go to the after party, which was going to be held at a club called The Bank, and it was walking distance away from the venue. So we go into the show, and it was amazing. It was like the best thing ever. I mean, I couldn't possibly tell you whether or not the sound was good. All I know is it was one of those situations where it's a band you love, a band you listen to a lot, and it really doesn't make much of a difference to you what they sound like, so long as you hear the songs you want and you're in their presence. So there are certain things when I think back in memory, and there are certain kind of details that I don't really remember, and unless it's something really over the top, I'm not going to remember things like sound. So I wish I could tell you if they sounded fantastic. I just know that they were there. They sounded like I thought they would, which is what they sounded like on their albums, and I was a happy camper. So the show ends, and at this point we're kind of like looking for the people that we came with. We ended up scattered throughout the venue, and we are just trying to find each other so we can make our way toward the bank. So we managed to find each other, and we make our way outside the building, and there's just a huge group of us just exiting the building. And as we walk outside, I realize that it had snowed while we were inside, and there was at least a good foot of snow on the ground, and snow was still coming down. And any of you who live in a place where it snows, you know that silence that comes along with snow, where it's this peaceful calm, this silence. Like the snow absorbs all of the sound, and that's exactly what happened. So you can imagine being in the middle of Manhattan, what that must have been like. You're surrounded by these buildings and tons of goths, and suddenly it's just this perfect silence as the snowflakes are falling down. And it was beautiful. And I remember I was wearing this opera coat, which is essentially, it's like a cloak with a hood, but it's super thick black velvet. And then inside it had kind of a cream faux fur, which was super warm. So I kind of felt like the ultimate goth, kind of stepping outside wearing this burgundy velvet corset, and then I'm wearing this cloak, and seeing that it's snowing, I just pull the hood up and I pull the coat closed, and we all walk together, like 100 of us, everybody going to the after party. We're all walking together. So as we're walking from the venue to the after party, it's kind of a prolific moment for me. And the reason is I'm suddenly feeling like one of the flock. I'm not feeling like the little kid anymore, like the one that shows up to the event thinking they look all cool, but then suddenly feeling like the scraggly little kid, which I often did. And I didn't feel like that anymore, because here we are, we're all exiting this refurbished cathedral after seeing London After Midnight. There's over 100 of us, and snow had fallen, and it's still falling, and we're walking through the snow, and the snow has absorbed the sound, creating this peaceful calm within the chaos of the city, laughing, singing the songs that we had just heard, talking to one another, like meeting new people all along the way as we're all walking together. And suddenly I felt like one of the flock. I didn't feel like the odd man out anymore. I didn't feel like I didn't know anything, because I knew all the songs I'd heard. And we were going to the bank where I was going to know all the songs that they were going to play. And it was at that moment that I realized I'm not one of the kids anymore. I'm not a baby bat. I didn't say baby bat because we never used that term back then, but I felt like I was one of the group for the first time ever. And that was sort of that turning point where I felt like, okay, I'm a goth. I'm one of them. Because we all go through that period where we have this imposter syndrome, where we feel like we don't belong, where other people are judging us, and maybe we don't have the right clothes, or we don't know as much of music as we think. And what you have to understand about that, and I think it's something really important, other people aren't looking at you the way that you are looking at you. And sure, there are jerks out there. There are people out there who judge. But for the most part, we are our worst critics, and we can be so hypercritical of ourselves in so many situations that we think other people are judging us in that same way. And we end up kind of taking that insecurity that we have and projecting it onto others, and kind of having our negative thoughts about ourselves come out of their mouths or their thoughts, when it's not even the case, not even close to the case. So you really have to consider that you're not looking at you the way that everybody else is looking at you. So you really need to cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break, and just don't allow those kinds of things to ruin moments. Because if you want to have those experiences and enjoy those experiences, you got to get involved. Get involved, go to events, go to clubs, go to concerts. And if it's a difficult thing for you to do for whatever reason, whether it be proximity to other people, where you live, etc., find other ways to get involved. There are a myriad of ways. Just get online, get on Facebook groups, get on Reddit, just find your people. Just always make sure to be careful. And that's something that's really important, is you want to be careful with the people that you meet online. You want to be safe, and you want to safeguard yourself. So never meet somebody alone. Never meet somebody in a darkened alley. Always go with people. Remember, the buddy system works. And always tell people where you're going. Make sure your family knows. Make sure your parents know. Make sure that you're not kind of leaving an air of mystery as to what's going on. But eventually, once you find your flock and once you get things moving, you're going to realize how much further away from baby bat you get with each event that you attend, or each time that you integrate or involve yourself in these kinds of situations. And you'll see. But just don't allow that insecurity to take away from things. But even though I had all of those insecurities, I'm stubborn. I've always been stubborn. I'm probably always going to be stubborn. And I didn't allow it to stop me from going out and going to these events or asking questions. And it was those very things that led to me feeling more secure. and feeling more as if I am on par or on the same level with those around me and not beneath anyone. So I hope you enjoyed the story. As promised, I'm going to show you the very outfit that I wore to this concert, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I am going to cherish this thing forever. And this time I'm not letting it go. Till next time. The story about the set is that it's made by Morbid Threads and was sold by Hot Topic and was purchased back in 1997. And when I came upon it on Poshmark, it was being sold by two different sellers, top by one seller, bottom by the other seller. So the skirt is actually a size too large, but the top is my size. So when I got it, I was excited to show my husband because it's a part of my history. And I'm always happy to share parts of my history because it's like happy moments for me. But he likes fashion anyway. So I laid it out on the bed after it arrived, and he came home and went into the bedroom to go change, and he sees this thing laid out on the bed. He's like, oh, that's it. It's really nice. That skirt's never going to fit you. And then I hear rustling. I go into the bedroom, and there he is, standing there wearing the skirt. And I said, you could borrow it if you want to. It's okay, because it's not unheard of that we borrow each other's clothes. And he looks at me like I'm insane for offering to let him borrow the skirt. Meanwhile, he stood there wearing it. However, it is a lovely set nonetheless. I am never getting rid of it this time. It is staying in my possession from now until the end of time.